Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Amateur Experts Podcast. I'm your host, Landon Oliver, with my co host, Andrew Scott.
What's happening?
Um, man, so we're cutting this episode literally probably 30 minutes right after the Super Bowl ended. Um, I'm going on vacation tomorrow. We wanted to get this out there for all you guys. So we are going to go ahead, get this Super Bowl episode out of the way. And what a game it was. I like to say we're amateur experts. I might be an expert because
Yeah, well, especially whenever it comes to predicting the Chiefs score. Apparently,
mm,
man, you gave them a little bit too much credit on
yeah, I had the
Friday's
Chiefs. I
episode.
had I had 17-10. Obviously the Bucks took the over on that, and the Chiefs took the under. And I
Man,
got ridiculed pretty hard for it by some people. It is what it is. I got told I was an idiot and all that stuff, but who's the idiot now?
I mean, if you would have told me that the Chiefs weren't going to score a touchdown the entire game, I would have taken any amount of bet that would have been on, whatever the odds were, whatever the dollar figure was. Like if I can afford to bet that, I would easily take that bet.
Well,
And
yeah,
the
I mean,
fact that,
I had 10 points, so I had them at least scoring one touchdown.
oh, right, man, I mean, hats off to the Bucks defense, man. And Todd Bowles, he pretty much just guaranteed himself a head coaching job next off season whenever the carousel goes
Yeah,
back around. Like
yeah,
he's
no kidding,
already
man.
he could set out this next season
I
and
mean, I
he'd be a
thought he
head
was
coaching
decent with the
candidate.
Jets. He couldn't even overcome the stink of the Jets, but which makes me a little worried about Robert Saleh. But
Right.
but but man, so obviously, if you're listening to this, you probably watched the Super Bowl, and if you did, Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, 31-9. Um, so I know you just kind of touched on, Tampa Bay's defense, but what were some of the things that kind of stood out to you watching this game live?
Man, I mean, the beginning of the game, it was a mix of the defense and it was Brady and the offense just looked
You
so in sync, man. I mean, there was
you
like,
had the Gronk call on the last show.
yeah, we are kind of experts in some stuff. I did say
Yeah,
that,
so that's why we're amateur experts.
right. I did say that the Chiefs, they're really good at locking up receivers, but they can be beaten at the tight end position. And then, Brady and Gronk did their little hookup, which
Yeah,
was
and
fun
Godwin
to
and
watch.
Mike Evans combined for 3 catches for 40 yards total. So they did. They locked up the receivers. If you would have told me those two guys would have had 3 catches for 40 yards and the Chiefs would have won, or the not Chiefs, but the Buccaneers would have won by 22 points, I would have called you insane.
Yeah, it was like I think it was the first two drives. I'm pretty sure they punted, and then after that, it was like I think 4 out of the 5 next drives they scored, and it really should have been 5 out of 5 if they would have had playoff Lenny in the backfield instead of Ronald
Yeah,
Jones on
yeah.
that
And
third
this
and fourth
this
and
could have
goal.
been even more of a blowout than what it
Yeah,
actually was.
I don't think Fournette gets stuffed 2 times in a row if they have him in the game over
No, I'm
Ronald
surprised they
Jones
didn't
for
Brady
those
sneak it.
carries. Yeah,
I was really
yeah,
surprised. I was
or
waiting for a
that.
Brady sneak.
So that was really, it was just the Bucks offense was so in sync to start the game, and then they kind of were able to just go on cruise control because the defense was playing so well that they really didn't have to, make any outstanding plays or anything like that once they established that lead. Um, the defense just played so incredibly well, man. And there was obviously, I think the big thing that's going to be talked about for the next week or so is going to be penalties, as that obviously was a big headline during the game and after the game. And of course, Tom Brady was the one on the other side
I
while the
thought
penalties were being called.
Well, yeah,
And
I told y'all, it's the Tom Brady thing, dude. It never fails. Like, it's just, I don't know
and
what it
honestly,
is.
if it's any other quarterback that's on the other side of the ball and those penalties are being called, I don't think anyone other than Chiefs fans would really care that much. But it's just the fact that people are watching Tom Brady get these calls in which, I mean, they show they show pretty much every play. Like they showed every penalty and
And
replay.
they were
And
holding. Like, let's not.
most of them were
Out of,
legit. There were
I
a
think the
couple
only
where it
one that
was like,
wasn't.
come on, man, like you could have let that go. Like there was a couple that were ticky tack,
Yeah, the pass
But
interference on Mike Evans was like really ticky tacky. What was funny is, so we're watching the game, and I had some buddies over here, and we're all sitting there, and I told my buddy Steven, I said, he said, what do you think? Like, Brady gets the ball back. There's like, 50 seconds or so. He's like, "What do you think?" And I said, "Mike Evans deep pass interference." And like,
Lo and behold.
he starts laughing like as soon as it happens. And I told him, I was like, "Man, it's that Brady factor, man. You just it's insane." For me, it was pretty much just like how basically from the moment the first snap took place, Tampa Bay just they completely out physicaled the Chiefs. Like they were just
Mm,
clearly the tougher team. They were more physical. They wanted it more. It looked like they were up for the game. They were ready to go from the moment that that ball was snapped. And I think a lot of that does have to do with Tom Brady, like that leadership. He's such an intense player to be
right.
around, and he raises the level of everybody on that to match. It's basically like the Jordan thing. Like
Mhm.
where Jordan's just so competitive that if you're not as competitive as him, you don't play.
Right, you're gonna get
And
left behind.
yeah, exactly. So everybody has to get to that level, and Brady has that. And I think it definitely shines through in the biggest moments. And tonight was one of the biggest moments of them all. And that team took on the personality of their leader, and they just came out ready to go, and they just punched Kansas City right in the mouth. And you saw all the taunting and all the back and forth. I mean, especially with Brady and Tyrann Matthew, like
Oh,
that was
man.
hilarious. Like
Yeah,
I
Matthew
love
thought he was gonna get up in his face and then just take off running, and Brady was like, "No, hold up."
no,
He
yeah, yeah,
chased him
yeah,
down. And
yeah.
then
I saw
Petty Brady, man, there is
it's
nothing more fun than Petty
no,
Brady.
it's so funny
He made sure Antonio Brown gets lined up one-on-one
with
with
Matthew
Matthew, and
and
then
throws
he
a
makes
touchdown at him.
sure that he gets that touchdown.
Yeah, and then he chased after him right
Yeah,
after.
yeah, like,
And so I saw a tweet. Stephen A. Smith, I think, is the one that tweeted it. He said he had a New England Patriots player, like former. I don't know if it was a former player or a current player, but they said they texted him right after that showed on the television, and they said Tyrann Matthew just made the biggest mistake of his career.
I mean, there before the AB touchdown, there was one before that too, right?
Yeah,
Where he like got in Tom's face,
yeah,
right?
they
And then
were
that's
going
what
back and
kind of,
forth for a little
yeah,
bit, and
yeah. And then the
they,
whole Antoine Whitfield,
yeah, oh yeah, the
in
peace sign to
Tyreek's
Tyreek.
face.
Because Tyreek, that's what's
Oh,
funny though. Is like so Chiefs fans probably be salty about it and all that. Tyreek was doing that to him in their Week 12 matchup.
and didn't
Tyreek
he
been
like
doing it all
backflip into
year.
the end zone or something from
Yeah,
the one? I mean, Tyreek was going off. If you wanna fawn about it, go
yeah.
do
But
your
whenever
thing.
you,
Tyreek
yeah,
was going off, but
but whenever you
you
get
got to
shut
expect to get
down,
the same in return if you're getting clamped.
yeah. I mean, so I don't think it was worth a penalty. I thought they should just let it go. I thought it was
Yeah,
hilarious.
that was like the greatest
Yeah,
Super Bowl penalty of all time.
yeah. That's what I told my buddy. We were sitting
Worth
there, and
it.
I was like, because he was like, "Oh man, that's so stupid. They might like they'll get the ball back now." And I was like, "No, like play's already over with. Like they'll
Mhm.
just they'll move them back on offense." And he goes, "Oh, that was 100% worth it then." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, yeah, 100% worth it." Um, but yeah, the physicality definitely stood out. Tom Brady in that first half, like
It was
he
really
keeps
similar to
breaking
the Green Bay
records.
game, man. Like
He
he
keeps
played
breaking
really
records.
great the first half of the game. In the second half of the game, just made sure he didn't lose the which he tried to lose the game and in the Green
Yeah,
Bay
in
game
Green
in the
Bay,
second
yeah, they
half.
wouldn't let him.
And then in the second half of this game, he didn't make those same mistakes. He just made sure he didn't lose the game. So you gotta, I mean, tip of the cap to the Todd Bowles and the defense, man. They played great and they held an offense that seemed like they were unstoppable. They, made them look worse than they have all year, really, over the last 2 years. I mean, coming into this, I think the Chiefs have won like 25 out of their last 26 games, right? And
Yeah,
then there was everybody was making the big deal about how the fact that Mahomes hadn't lost by more than one score since back whenever he was in college. So I mean, this is all kind of uncharted territory for this Chiefs team. Um, I mean, I think a lot went into that. I mean, it's not like Mahomes didn't play great, but Mahomes also was running for his life the entire game. Um,
yeah. I
you know,
mean, I
I
think there was some situations where he kind of ran himself into pressure. I mean, obviously, most of the game, I think he was running for his life, but there's a few times he could have stepped up, and he just kept wanting to turn his back and run backwards, and it kept getting him into some
yeah.
pretty bad situations. But
And
I
honestly,
was
I think
you
a
was
lot of that
seeing,
was him just
yeah,
expecting to need to because
yeah,
of how the game
exactly.
went.
Yeah, I mean, that's yeah. He was just seeing ghosts there, and you can't really blame him because he was getting. There was one play, like in particular, they threw that penalty on where he got just crunched by three dudes, and it
Oh
looked so
yeah.
gross.
Yeah, that was terrible, man.
So, but yeah, so Tom just keeps breaking records. Can we just go ahead on this show? I know we're not the voice of the people and all that. can we just go ahead and put this shit to bed? Like, Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. Like,
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes is not catching him. Like, he'd have to win 8 Super Bowls, and I highly doubt that. And then even if he does, like, Brady beat him head to head like multiple times, and one of them to win the 7th ring. He
One of them to
outplayed
get
him.
to a ring and one of them to win the ring. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a wrap. Like that conversation, like you can put it on a spaceship that's owned by Elon Musk, and you can shoot that bitch into Mars because that shit is long gone. Like, Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. And what we literally watched tonight was just a solidification of that argument. And if you know me, you know how much it hurts me to say that, especially with my boy getting into the Hall of Fame last night. Congrats to Peyton. Um, but yeah, it's definitely like conversation over. Like, I don't want to see one more fucking baby goat meme. Like, it can't exist. Like, if I like that shit's done.
Yeah, I mean, I've basically been in that, not that he could never be caught, but I've been in the Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time mindset basically since the Atlanta comeback, whenever, the 28-3 or whatever it was,
Yeah.
Super Bowl. That was kind of where he solidified it for me, and he's done nothing to change my mind on that.
He's done more to solidify it.
Right. He just keeps winning in different ways. I mean, it's not that it's, he doesn't, he, he wasn't the sole reason that they've won all these Super Bowls or anything like that. But like, you can't keep saying, oh, it's the defense, or oh, it's the kicker, or oh, it's this, oh, it's that, whenever the guy has more Super Bowls than any franchise in the history. Like, this isn't just a coincidence at this point.
Yeah,
It's
that's what
just
I was.
he's not just so happening to find himself in these situations anymore.
No,
Like,
that's
you
what I
got
was
to
seeing
get,
on
like, people
Twitter.
have to get past that.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing on Twitter. Is there was a bunch of, like, obviously there's Chiefs fans and like things like that, and of course they're gonna be salty, and I get all that, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
was salty too
but
whenever the Rams got beat by
yeah,
the
but yeah,
Patriots.
but they were saying, like, oh man, Tom Brady's like, Tom Brady's defense balled out for him tonight. It wasn't all Brady, and I'm like, bro, the defense didn't put up 31 on y'all. Like,
Right.
like, you can say it's the defense all you want, but they didn't just drop 30 plus.
The
So
defense did ball out, but this game was another perfect example that this is a team sport and you need a collaborative effort to win the whole thing. Like, no one, like, basketball is the closest sport to where somebody can win it all by themselves, and
yeah,
even
and
then it's
take over.
still a team thing,
Yeah,
and football is.
there's basically been like two dudes that you can say like carried a team to an NBA championship
And you can
in,
say that about nobody in the
in football.
NFL. It's
No.
just not. It's same thing with baseball. Like,
Do you know
you're
who those two
not
dudes are, by the
winning.
way? I'm just curious if your answer is the same as mine.
I mean, I would have three in there. I would say MJ, Allen Iverson, and Kobe.
Yeah, but Allen Iverson never won a ring.
No, oh, obviously, as you said, it carried them to a championship. I
Yeah,
got to
carried them.
play in it.
No, I'm talking about
You
carry,
mean talk
like,
about like winning the
single-handedly
whole
carried a
thing?
team to a title.
I would say MJ and Kobe then.
I wouldn't say Kobe. And I love Kobe, but even that other one, he had Pau Gasol and Bynum, and Odom was still playing. Like, I don't think he single-handedly carried them. He was obviously the leader, but I would say Jordan in '98 versus the Utah Jazz, when Scottie Pippen was broken down and could barely walk. Dennis Rodman was like 40 and averaged like 1.5 points a game. Um, and Jordan, like, so Jordan in '98 versus the Jazz, and then
And then LeBron.
I think Dirk Nowitzki against the Miami Heat.
Oh, well, no, I mean, there were a lot of guys that played
I
really,
mean, they
really
played
good
well, but I'm talking about they
basketball.
only have one All-Star on that team. Like that.
Yeah,
His name
but
was Dirk.
there were a lot of players that played above their like usual potential in that series. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I'm
you
not
know,
saying he like I'm not saying he scored all the points for him and stuff. Obviously, they had other
Dirk,
contributors.
but yeah, that Dirk was absolutely insane. That
Yeah,
series,
yeah.
no
I
doubt.
think he single-handedly like gave them that time, especially like after that game, after they were like making fun of him with coughing and all that shit about him being sick, and he just went out there and like just railed them in the fourth quarter and won that game. Like, that
Yeah,
shit's the
he's
funniest thing. No, to me, like, LeBron's carried a team. He's carried one team to the finals, and they got swept by the Spurs.
God, that first finals
That
trip,
first
man. That
finals
team
team,
was
yeah,
awful.
terrible, bro, so bad. But all
um,
his other teams, he's played with at least like I mean, maybe that Cleveland team, but Kyrie was putting up like 40 points a game too. So, I mean, but all his other ones, except for that Cleveland title, he's played with like a top three player in
Yeah, that's
basketball.
fair.
So, I don't think he's single-handedly won a team. He's single-handedly carried a team
He's
to the
carried 2
finals.
different teams,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, as far as winning it goes, yeah, there's been
Yeah,
other
yeah. So
players
so
there.
for me it's just, but we can get to basketball later. Like,
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah,
Super
but I
Bowl
mean, the the
conversation.
the the point is like the whole, the defense wanted for him or the kicker wanted for him or whatever, you don't just get lucky 7 times in your career to win the hardest game to win as an NFL player. It doesn't just so happen 7 times.
Right.
And I'm not gonna say he could never be topped, but it's definitely gonna be extremely, extremely difficult though.
For me, this is
Um,
like saying like Cal Ripken's record can like be topped. Like, I don't think Ripken's record's getting beaten. And I don't think Brett Favre's consecutive start streaks gets beaten. And I just don't see anybody winning it like by like single-handedly, like
yeah,
as
it's
far
tough
as
to
like one
imagine another
player.
player
Another
winning
player winning
more
8
Super
Super
Bowls
Bowls.
than
Yeah,
uh,
I don't
than every franchise.
yeah, that's just yeah, he's the greatest player of all time. And you can give me all like the little bullshit like, well, Mahomes was the first to do this before the age of 25, blah blah blah. Like, I don't give a shit, dude. Like, Brady, and not to mention, this is another thing, is like now Mahomes has lost that record to Brady as far as most Super Bowls by the age of 26 or whatever. So like that's just another one because he had to win this year to tie Brady. And then as well as the whole back-to-back Super Bowl argument. Because I believe
Yeah, I mean, and the
there's
passing
there's just there's
arguments.
so many like different records that dude holds that it's just unfathomable. And he even broke another one tonight. I know they were saying like he's like the first quarterback in Super Bowl history to throw like 80% with 3 touchdowns in the first half. Like, it's just another one that made up, records that
Yeah,
they just cherry pick whatever.
stats that don't matter that
Yeah,
they that
yeah,
that
which is like
get put
most
on the front
which is most of
page.
the stats that people give me about Mahomes, like, stats that just like Mahomes is the first player from the fourth quarter with 3 minutes left, up by 2 touchdowns to throw for a 5 yard pass. It's like, dude, like, I don't care. Like, it's I mean,
Yeah,
is
I
my
mean, the thing with all these passing records is,
they're just gonna be
especially whenever you're talking about guys that are just started in the league a few years ago versus guys that are, 7, 8, 9, 10 years plus years into their career, is the game of football has changed a lot in that time period. And
yeah,
guys are
insane.
throwing a lot more than they did back then. And so, I mean, those passing records are just gonna keep getting broken, especially the seasonal ones. Now, the career ones, that's a different story because it's tough to have the longevity that Peyton and Breeze and Brady and those guys have had. Like, it's tough to be great for so many years in a row. So
Yeah.
I mean, if the
But even
longevity,
that I think has gotten easier because I
well,
mean,
it's going to
obviously,
happen if these
well,
guys do stay
obviously, like
healthy. But
you can't touch the quarterbacks anymore, like, or else you get penalized. So those guys are extremely protected, as well as the advancements in medicine. Like that, like players now, they're gonna have like quarterbacks specifically is gonna have a way longer lifespan than like like Kenny Stabler and like dudes like that who were just getting like their shit knocked in every night back in the
for
70s.
sure, yeah.
Oh,
But I mean, it's still not easy to be
no,
great for
definitely
16,
not.
17 years. So like
Definitely
it's
not.
y-
Because it takes
the
because like you said, it takes a team. And so like you're gonna have like there's gonna be a time like Travis Kelsey's the same age as Gronk. Like Tyreek, is still relatively young, but like there's gonna be a time where like, Eric Fisher is getting up there. And we saw what happened tonight without Eric Fisher and like what happened with their other tackle. Like, so you're gonna have to replace those pieces. There's gonna be a time where Mahomes is not gonna have these weapons. And obviously he's talented enough to where he can elevate, whoever, but playing at the level he's playing at now, where like you're throwing 40 touchdowns a year or 50 or whatever you want to say, like that's going to be so hard to replicate whenever you don't have these dynamic pieces that you do right now, because of age or something like that. Because you can't just go out and find a Travis Kelsey. You can't just go out and find Tyreek Hill. Like those guys just don't grow on trees. Um, so I mean, it's going to be interesting to see that going forward. Obviously, like I think that he'll end up more than likely, barring injury, I think he ends up with like the passing yards and the passing touchdowns just because, they sling the ball, 45, 50 times a game where a lot
Yeah,
of
if
those
he can
dudes,
stay healthy, it wouldn't be
yeah, so
surprising
where
to
like
see
a lot
him
of those
beat.
dudes now, like Brady and Manning and Breeze, like those guys that have the records now, for their first 5, 6 years of their career, they were throwing the ball 25 times a game. Like that was just what the game was back then. They if you threw, for 230 yards and two touchdowns and you threw 25 passes, like that was
That
a
was
Pro
mind
Bowl
blowing.
caliber game.
Yeah.
So and that's an average game now.
So two
Um,
other things that really popped out during this game. Um, while we're on the topic of Mahomes, I just want to talk about how incredible this dude is. He might have had two of the
Dude, that throw.
greatest incompletions back to back that I have ever seen in my life. They were incompletions, but the play where he spinned out to his left and threw the ball to Bauer Pringle in the corner of the end zone while being dragged to the ground by Shaq Barrett, and the ball still somehow made it to Pringle. I mean, granted, it was an incompletion, but the fact that he even made it, and then to turn around the very next play and to be
This,
like parallel with the ground and hit Darrell Williams in the face mask with the ball. He should have caught it. Should have been a touchdown.
yeah, should have been
Like
a
if he
touchdown.
catches that ball, that's a touchdown, and that's like one of the greatest plays in Super Bowl history.
That well, not only
Um,
that too, like it wasn't even like he just like lobbed it up. Like
no,
that
it was a
shit, that
dart.
was a dart. Like,
Yeah,
and I don't even know how you generate like that's to me, like that defies physics. Like there's not like you have no momentum and you're just able to swing
yeah.
like that
Just
shit
shows
was
how
insane.
special he is, just as
Yeah.
like an arm talent, and he's just like how it like it's just something to take with us into next year. That like Mahomes isn't going anywhere,
Oh no.
especially next year. You know, the Chiefs core is intact for the next few years. You know,
Yeah,
they're
they've
not
got a
going
good
anywhere by
they've
any
got a good
means.
like 3 to 4 or 5 more years of that window being
Yeah.
wide open.
And then their front office has shown the ability to hit on mid-round picks pretty consistently to
Yeah.
where you've got they get the benefit of the doubt, for now at least, that this is a team that's going to be competing for championships every year as
I
long as
think as long as
Mahomes is
he's
under
under
center.
center, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, they're going to at least be in the discussion, like I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
if you ask
you're
me
not gonna
tomorrow
make it
who
every
should
year,
be
like,
right.
it's impossible, but
Yeah. If you ask me tomorrow who should be the favorite to win the Super Bowl, I would pick Kansas City.
yeah,
Like I mean, so that was I couldn't not mention that because I was just watching the game. I was mind blown watching those two throws. Like those are throws that should never be able to be made, and he's out there making them. The other thing was clock management. Andy Reid made
uh,
another appearance right before halftime. I've said this for a long time. I think Andy Reid is not one of the best head coaches of all time or anything like that, but I think he's one of the best offensive minds in my lifetime, at least from where I've actually, watched football and really, paid attention. But man, some of the clock management he's had in the past, and then again tonight, right before halftime, whenever Tampa got the ball back, and he started calling timeouts to stop the clock for them because, granted he wanted to get the ball back or whatever, but like
you can't give Brady more
come on, why
opportunities, man.
you're giving this man more chances? Like what? Why are you calling timeout? They only had one timeout, and the very first play from scrimmage was a handoff that got nothing. Like they're in position now to where you can go into halftime, with hey, we get the ball back. Just like if they didn't get the ball back and they were trying desperately to get something going before halftime, maybe even then I probably wouldn't agree with it, but maybe. But like you in like 40 seconds, you're getting the ball back, whenever once the halftime show's over and you guys come back out. But instead, you're stopping the clock for these guys that only have one timeout, that had an unsuccessful first play from scrimmage on that drive. And then that drive turns into a scoring drive because of you giving them more time and then the pass interference to Mike Evans. And that was just kind of like I was sitting there watching those. I saw the timeout. I saw they said somebody called a timeout, and I was like, "Oh man, Tampa's out of timeouts." But the little tick, the little one timeout thing never left their side. I was like, "Wait, they didn't call that?"
I know that when the announcer is just like, "Yeah, the Chiefs took a timeout," and I just shook my head and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Okay, Andy, what are you doing?
yeah.
What are
Clock
you doing?"
management. Andy made a return,
You
man.
can't give Tom more chances, man. Like he's just gonna kill you. And that's another thing, like because obviously we're gonna hear about the referees, like and like we touched on earlier, there were a couple bad calls, but all those holding calls, like other than maybe like one of them, they were all legit. Like they were
Yeah.
all over the wide receivers and stuff. And I mean, whenever you're playing a dude like that, like we said, like you can't give him more chances. Like, and they're gonna call those calls for Tom Brady. Like this is the dude's been in the league 20
No,
years
you
now.
got to know your
Yeah,
audience.
yeah, yeah. Know who you're playing against and make sure you clean it up because we like they're gonna call those calls like for Brady's team. Like it's happened
Yeah.
for 20 years. Like, well, I wouldn't say 20 years. It's happened consistently like the last 10 years. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, yeah, you can say the refs, you can say the offensive tackles, you know, what else? Oh, Patrick Mahomes' toe. Like his toe, even though the dude's out there running around, gaining all these yards and scrambling and all that stuff. But then whenever he misses a throw, it's like, oh well, his toes hurt. But when he makes a throw and runs around, you don't hear shit.
And so I don't think he should be used as an excuse because I mean he was I think he was well enough to play, but I don't think it's crazy to think that like the first half was the majority of. I think if I'm remembering correctly, it was whenever a lot of the chunks of yardage were coming, where like adrenaline is pumping, like it's the start of the Super Bowl.
Well, then
You know,
he
there
just got that
probably
shot in his
there
foot right
probably
before they came
is
out.
yeah, like there probably is less pain going on at the start of the game whenever he was like at the first the first quarter, first two quarters. I think he was the leading rusher on the team. Like,
Mhm.
um,
I think that dude that went
so
streaking had more rushing yards than the Chiefs.
so I'm sure there was I'm sure he was dealing with a little bit less pain at the start of the game than he was at the end of the game. But I mean, the reality is that there were some bad calls. There were some penalties that I thought shouldn't have been called, but there were plenty of legit ones too. Like the Chiefs did. It wasn't just the refs hurting the Chiefs. The Chiefs did hurt themselves with penalties, and even if you take away, what might not have needed to be a penalty, I don't think it's a three-score difference in the game. Like you
No.
can't just hand the ref like, oh, it's because of the refs. Here you go and hand it to them. Like it wasn't like we're talking about a 3-point game here where the refs made all the difference or anything like that. Like
Yeah, like you
they,
like you got your ass kicked.
yeah,
Yeah, like
no
they
way
came.
around it.
Yeah, they came in there and punked the Kansas City Chiefs.
And I mean, I didn't think it would be you and Lanny both said that, the fact that Eric Fisher was out, they were going to be out without their left tackle, right tackle, and Shaq Barrett and JPP are a force to be reckoned with. I thought that
I
they would be able to
and
overcome that. You
Vita Vea
guys,
too.
yeah,
Like
yeah, and Vita
that
Vea, I
that dude
thought they'd be
changed
able
the
to overcome
defense.
that. You guys said, that was one of y'all's biggest worries and reasons why you guys were picking the Bucks, and you guys were spot on with that. I mean, Mahomes was running for his life all game. And guys just weren't in it. I mean, to his credit, he was buying his receivers time to get open. Like he was doing a good job of running for his life, but guys just weren't getting open, man. They played I don't know if there was a single snap where they didn't have two safeties on the field. Like they were
Oh yeah,
making sure that Tyreek didn't beat them deep, and they completely took that out of the playbook. Like that was not happening.
and we can't
Um,
overstate the job that Levante David did on
on,
Travis
on
Kelsey.
Travis Kelsey, oh my God,
Yeah,
yeah,
like Kelsey had his dump off yards and he had a couple, catches, but I mean, he like for big chunks of the game, he was almost, non-existent. And like I said, obviously, with the amount of targets he had and a lot of those dump offs that happened underneath, the play,
right.
um, he's gonna rack up, basically like garbage time yards, but he was never truly, a factor as in how Travis Kelsey usually is. Like he wasn't a threat in the red zone, mainly because they hardly reached the red zone, but he wasn't a threat down there at all. And Levante David is like, and also Devin White, like that's one of the great linebacking cores in the NFL.
That front seven in general, man, is
It's
just
so sick. And
unreal.
Dominican Sue had some really good plays.
Yeah,
Vita,
he had like another Ndamukong Suh type play too, man, where it's just like he can't get away from the dirty player tab. It
which
just
one
the
was that? The
oh,
one that
it was the one
Mahomes
where
got
I'm pretty sure it was
sacked.
the one where Holmes got crunched. and Sue just did his part. I can't remember exactly
Yeah.
which one it was, but there was
I
a
know
play
there
I
was
was
one where
there
like
was
he
one
got
play where I was
sacked
like, man,
and
there's Ndamukong Suh
yeah,
again.
and then
Like,
Dominican Sue was going for his ankle, but then Mahomes got sacked and fell down and
and there
you
was
know,
one
in his
missed
hand.
penalty too, where he was already getting sacked, and Sue came through and basically just like punched him in the helmet.
No, see that he was going for it. Like he had his
He,
hand down
he,
before he
he,
fell.
he might have been going for it, but that's where he hit though, and that's a
Yeah,
penalty.
yeah, but Mahomes fell into his
Right.
hand. Like
I'm
it
not saying that
wasn't.
one's a dirty play. I'm just saying that's a penalty, and that's
Yeah.
something that they they went against Kansas City too. Um, but yeah, and one other thing, I was reading something after. Let me see if I can pull it up. I think I wrote it down. Something I thought was interesting. So this is two straight Super Bowls for the Chiefs. Mahomes in the first three quarters last year versus the 49ers in the Super Bowl. He went 16 for 25, 145 yards, zero touchdowns, one interception. Mahomes in the first three quarters tonight, 14 of 28, 114 yards, zero touchdowns, one interception. So I mean, this is back, and he's still extremely young. I imagine he's gonna play in several more Super Bowls in his career. Um, but this is, two straight years, two straight Super Bowls where he got off to a really slow start. And, one year he was playing against Jimmy Garoppolo, and the other year he was playing against Tom Brady. And there was one reason that I kind of have a little fun with that is, whenever the whole Garoppolo Brady thing was happening in New England and people were trying to decide, should they move on? And apparently, reportedly, Belichick wanted to move on from Brady, but Robert Kraft wouldn't let him. And, the whole system quarterback thing, the only reason that Tom Brady's successful was because he was playing with Bill Belichick and all that. And so this is just my opportunity to officially start a new hashtag that Bill Belichick is a hashtag system head coach. And as Danny Amendola said, that system is Tom Brady. And I say that completely jokingly because I hate Bill Belichick as a Rams fan. Um, I hate what he has done to what was supposed to be two unstoppable offenses from the greatest show on turf in 2001, and then the
Cameras don't lie, baby.
Sean McVay's offense a couple of years ago. I absolutely hate what has happened in the Super Bowl against those guys. I hate watching his post game press conferences, acting like he is just too incredibly busy and too important to be bothered by reporters trying to do their job and just, yeah, we're on to Cincinnati. Yeah, good question. Yeah, that shit is so incredibly annoying to listen to. I just do not like Bill Belichick, and so now, after years and years and years of people telling me that
See,
Tom
just
Brady,
at me, bro.
you're on here, so I don't have to, and you were one of them. But there was so many more. This is most definitely not directed just towards you. There
Oh,
was
I know.
a long list of people that said, that Bill Belichick and his system could win a Super Bowl with your favorite team's backup quarterback. It doesn't matter. Tom Brady just happens to be there, and then now, lo and behold, Tom Brady in his first year away from Bill Belichick is a Super Bowl champion, a
Yeah.
Super Bowl
First
MVP,
year, new team during a
and
pandemic with no off season.
Bill
And then
Belichick is sitting at home watching the entire playoffs because he had yet another losing season, no playoff appearances, and
we had Cam Newton.
well, hey,
He won
he,
7 games with a
he's
corpse at
supposed to win
quarterback.
a Super Bowl with your favorite team's backup quarterback. And
Yeah.
Cam Newton isn't just your favorite team's backup quarterback. He's a former league MVP. All
Well,
right. So
that was when he had an
even
arm.
if he is a shell of himself, he's a former league MVP. And if anybody should be able to turn him around, I would think you could at least get a winning record with Cam if you're Bill Belichick as your head coach.
Yeah.
So
No, his
um
defense opted out too. It is what it is.
they still had like the sixth best defense in the league as far as
Exactly.
points allowed.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So maybe Josh McDaniels was holding them back.
but Bill Belichick is the brain man. He's the
we
whole
just
head
we just
honcho.
appreciate what Brady did real quick, just one more time. This man, like you said, first year, new team, new receivers, new offense, during a pandemic, no off season, new conference, not even the same conference, went to a whole different conference. Dude just beat Brady, or dude, Brady just beat Breeze, Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes in a row to win his 7th Super Bowl.
Incredible team effort from all those guys, man. I mean, it really is. The defense play, other than, I don't think the defense played that great against Washington, honestly. Taylor Heineke should not have done what he did in that game. But you take that game away from the defense, and the defense played lights out during the playoffs. Um, you take away the second half from against Green Bay from Brady. He played pretty much lights out during the playoffs. But that's the getting back to the team effort thing, like against Washington, if Brady doesn't play as well as he does, they might lose that game because of the defense letting Taylor Heineke run wild and put up more points than he should. And then against Green Bay, if the defense doesn't play shutdown football in the second half, with Brady turning the ball over 3 times, they could likely lose that game. And then it kind of all just came together in the Super Bowl where Brady played great and so did the defense. And then you get this dominant performance that we saw tonight. So, I mean, it, it's it was incredible to watch, man. I mean,
It
offensive
was a
side,
really fun game, unless you were a Chiefs fan, then you hated it. But outside of
yeah.
that, it was fun to watch, and I'm glad because Brady's still playing at such a high level. I'm glad that I don't think he's retiring. I think he's coming back next year. And if the Bucks can keep this core with now a full off season, coming off a Super Bowl, and they're like, really, if you think about it, like their defense just got their shit together basically like the last 4 weeks. Like they were just, other than like you said, the Washington game, like because they had some really big issues, most of the year in the pass game.
Mhm.
Their run game's always been really good, but their
Yeah.
their pass rush really stepped it up. I think Vita Vea just completely transformed, you know, that line, and I think Carlton Davis has just been an absolute baller. Antoine Winfield, of course, getting healthy was a big deal. Um, there's no reason to think that they couldn't even be better next year unless Brady hits that cliff, finally. But
It's got to happen
it's got to
eventually.
happen eventually. But I didn't see any reason to believe it's going to be anytime soon. I mean, dude might legit, he might be able to play at a high level till he's 45, 46. I mean,
Yeah, that ball had some zip on it
yeah,
tonight,
I mean,
man.
he
Like he
ain't
was
slowing
throwing
down,
some
dude.
darts, and they're talking about news came out today that they're going to attempt to re-sign Chris Godwin long term. They
Yeah,
want to bring AB back. They want to bring Gronk back. They want to bring Fournette back. Like all the guys that
run
they
it
could
back.
potentially lose, they're wanting to bring them all back and just run it back. And I mean, if you're after seeing the result this year, why
Why would
why
you not
not?
want to come back?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, these guys, it's incredible with just it's nights like tonight. I don't want to bring up the Rams on every podcast that we do because I'm a Rams fan, but it's nights like tonight that granted Matt Stafford is obviously not Tom Brady, but
no,
it just seeing what getting a franchise quarterback, a game changing quarterback to lead your team, seeing what that can do to change your team is just it makes sense on why everybody's out here trying to trade picks for quarterbacks and trying to move up in drafts to get their guy and things because I mean, like, Antonio Brown came to Tampa because of Tom Brady. Gronk came to Tampa because of Tom Brady. Leonard Fournette came to Tampa because of Tom Brady. Those guys right there and Tom Brady, that's
you,
all 31 points
yeah,
tonight.
you saw the result in the
Yeah,
Super
like
Bowl, right?
guys want to go play with that, and there was the report that came out today, like Marvin Jones plus more players texted Matt Stafford, we want to come play with the Rams, we want to come play with you. It just like whenever you can get a franchise changing type of guy at the quarterback position, you regardless of the cost, I think you should do it. It's the most
Yeah,
important position in the league,
yeah,
and
which is why I think
Stafford might not end up being that guy for the
yeah,
Rams, but it's
because
just it's just more credit. It's more credit to the Bucks
yeah, because
that
I think definitely like you see that like having a franchise level guy, a guy that can completely come in and change an entire culture and raise those other guys up to make them a Super Bowl team. I think that's a. I mean, you saw the result tonight. Like it was a completely different culture, and I think that's why the Lions drafted Stafford number one. And I think you saw the results, of that in Detroit. It's that franchise level guy raising the. I'm just fucking with you. I'm sorry,
look.
I had to.
It
I had
wasn't.
to.
Look,
It was sitting there.
if you've ever
You had it.
seen
You had it teed up.
if you've ever seen that mic'd up clip of Stafford his rookie year against the Browns where he
I
like
have.
separated his shoulder
I
in
have.
the game, but it was his left shoulder, and they were trying to take him out. And he was like, "No, fuck that. If you need me to throw the ball, I can throw the ball." And he goes back
You
out
know
there
that
and
that
wins
was
the
game winning
game for him.
touchdown.
Like,
Yeah.
look, The Lions' failure had nothing to do with the intensity he brings to the game. You
No,
can
he's
take
one of the
that to
toughest.
the you
He's
could
one of
take
the tough.
that to
Like
the
you
bank.
can't even say toughest quarterback. I think he's probably one of the toughest players, like in general in the NFL. So
But
he's a tough
Tom
one.
Brady, man, it's just like
You just had it teed up for me. I
I
had to
saw a
take it.
clip on Bleacher Report. It was Levante David. He was being interviewed by Patrick Peterson and somebody else on the podcast that they do, and and just talking about the intensity that Brady brings. Like Levante David was saying that whenever they beat Green Bay to go to the Super Bowl, one of the teammates of theirs was crying, and David said Brady went up to him and was like, "What the fuck you crying for? We still got to win another game. Get it together." Like this man has never been to the Super Bowl in his life. It's that at this point, it's probably the happiest moment in his life. He's crying tears of joy, and Brady just walks up to him like, "Yo." Well, lock it in. Come on, man. What are you doing? We still got shit to do. Like, it's
Yeah,
just,
it's a different level. It's a
yeah.
different.
It's
And see, man,
just
like what we're seeing now. This is why, I'm so high on. Like, I really want to just. I want to like bat this home. Like what we're seeing now with Tom Brady doing this. This is unprecedented territory. Like this
mm,
is like. I mean, I'm not talking about in football. I'm talking about in sports. Like at the age of 43, like to do what he does. And this is just like it's unreal. Like it literally is unreal. Because you talk about guys, the greatest players of all time. You're talking about Michael Jordan. I mean, you remember what Michael Jordan was with the Wizards at the age of 40? And I know basketball is a different sport, but I mean, do we remember what happened to Tiger Woods, as he's gotten older, which granted, he just won the Masters at the age of 43. Shout out to Tiger. Um, but I mean, you kind of see, as he's aged, he's dealt with a lot of injuries and stuff like that, and it's really
mm.
taken a toll on his game. I mean, what are some of the other greatest players? You have, I mean, I don't know really who you consider the GOAT. Um, to me, the greatest tennis player of all time, Serena Williams. But I don't think, I mean, she's kind of slowed down in recent years, but I think she still plays at a high
She's still
level.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she still plays at a high level, but she's also not 43. I mean, I don't envision her doing this at 43. So I mean, you just I just don't want people to take for granted like what we're actually seeing right now. And as me, Andrew can tell you, like I've been one of the biggest Brady haters for like 20 years, man. Like I can't stand the fucking dude. But you just have to sit back and appreciate it. And if you can, like take the fanhood out of it, take the bias out of it. Even if you're a Chiefs fan tonight, take the salt out of it. Um, and just appreciate it for what it is, because there's a very, very good chance that this never happens again in the history of sports.
I agree. I agree, man. It sucks because, um, as a Rams fan, I've had to watch Brady beat my team in the Super Bowl twice. The last two times that my favorite team has made it to the Super Bowl, it's been against the Rams. And honestly, I think that of the Super Bowls he's won, I think the two Rams game might be the worst. It was his rookie year and then a couple of years ago, or his second year, and then a couple of years ago. I think it might be the two worst performances he's had as far as like the games he actually won in the Super Bowl. But even in those games, his second year in the league, he really didn't play well. But whenever it came down to crunch time, as a second year player, he took them like 60 yards on the last drive of the game to put Vinatieri in position to kick the field goal. And then, fast forward like 15 damn years, it's still Brady and Belichick. And Brady hadn't played that well. It's a 3-3 game in the fourth quarter. He throws two bombs to Gronk that covers like 50 yards in the fourth quarter, puts them in position for Sony Michel to run in a 2-yard touchdown that puts them up 10-3. They end up winning 13-3. Even in the games where he didn't play well the whole game,
He just makes
he's
that
able
one
to
play.
block all that out, and he's able to come through whenever he has to come through. And if you want to beat Brady, you have got to completely put him out of it, because if he's hanging around at any point, he's going to make the plays to win the game. He's not going to lose the game. And it's just, I mean, it's incredible. I just in terms like that's why I troll Belichick so much is on the last this all this run that they went on as far as on Brady Belichick, where most people kind of sided on the Belichick side. I sided on the Brady side, and so most of my hate went toward Belichick because Tom Brady wasn't up there setting up, getting cameras ready, whatever the first time that they beat the Rams in the Super Bowl and all that.
Oh, allegedly.
Yeah. So I had more of a dislike for Belichick than Brady, so it was a little bit easier for me to appreciate what's happening. Um, and it's a little bit harder for me to appreciate how great of a coach Belichick is, because as much as I troll and say assistant head coach and things like that, I understand he is an incredible head coach. But I don't care. I'm still having fun with this. I'm still going to enjoy the fact that he has a losing record without Brady. He's never won a Super Bowl without Brady, and that Brady just won a Super Bowl. I'm going to continue to have fun with that until Belichick does something
Yeah,
to
and
make that.
underrated too. Like I'm so glad that Bruce Arians won a Super Bowl ring. Like I'm so glad.
Oldest head coach in history to win one, too.
Yeah, former Colts head coach, coach of the year for the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, like I was on the train of we should keep Arians and fire Pagano, but look, this is gonna sound heartless. Like I get it, but you know what? Fuck y'all. Uh, so this was whenever Chuck Pagano had cancer, and thank God, he got, he came through healthy and all that stuff. Like I'm not saying anything like that, but I was on the train of we should keep Bruce Arians, fire Pagano, and everybody was like, the dude just came back from cancer. You can't fire him. And I was like, I don't think he's a good head coach. I'd rather keep Arians. Well,
Yeah, it's
obviously,
nothing to do with cancer. I mean,
yeah,
like
exactly. It's
it's
nothing.
great
It's
that
just
he
I'm
came
just
back from
yeah,
cancer, but
exactly. I'm not saying anything. Like I'm happy he's healthy and all that stuff. But they were like, oh, well, you can't fire him. Like he had cancer. He hasn't proven himself. And I'm like, I'm just saying. Like I didn't like the games he coached. Um, I would have rather kept Arians in Colts blue, but who's to say? Like it all ended up working out. Arians got a Super Bowl ring. We have Frank Reich. We're very young team on the rise. No reason to get into the Colts. But yeah, I'm extremely happy for Bruce Arians, and especially I know they showed that clip of his 95-year-old mother there at the game.
oh yeah, that was so awesome,
Yeah,
man.
that's awesome that his mom is
Yeah,
still around and she gets to see her son win a Super Bowl
absolutely.
as a coach. I mean, and I think Byron Leftwich, I think he's going to be in line for maybe a bigger
Yeah,
job here
because something
shortly.
that I didn't know until tonight, whenever they reported it, they said
Yeah.
that Bruce Arians said that, I might not have taken the job if he wasn't available to be my OC, and that he just kind of like, I just assumed that Arians, ran things on the offensive side of the
Nope.
ball, but they said that Byron Leftwich is the one running the show on offense. And so that kind of caught me off guard. I had no idea that he had such an impact on the offensive side of the ball. I just kind of assumed with Bruce Arians, handling a lot of that stuff, that he would be the one making
Yeah.
that. And so
Well, of
that,
all the Colts ties, man, because Byron Leftwich, of course, he's the old quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and
right,
see him all the time. And he had his ups and downs with the franchise, and the franchise wasn't very good
right.
back then. But man, like that dude always gave us so much trouble. I know it's divisional games, but man, I hated playing against Byron Leftwich.
Well,
And
look, knowing what I know now about what he did, as a play caller, um, man, he definitely deserves to be in line for some head coaching
yeah,
considerations. I mean, that offense was, especially after the bye week, um, that offense was possibly the best in the NFL once they got back from the bye week in like
hmm,
week 11 or week 12, whatever it was. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, seeing what he's put together, granted, you've got Tom Brady, you've got Chris Godwin, you've got Antonio Brown, you've got Mike Evans, you've got Gronk, but he still, I mean,
you got to get
with
the guys
how,
open.
yeah, yeah, and they did that consistently, and that was kind of whenever I heard them say that on the broadcast tonight, that really caught me off guard and really opened my eyes to how great of a job that he did as an OC,
Yeah,
and he deserves a lot of credit for that
it
too.
was a great job all around with the coaching staff. For
Hmm.
Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians and all the other guys on that coaching staff just put on an absolute clinic, and they had their guys ready to go, and that was
And it's easy whenever you've got basically like a head coach on the
as a
field
quarterback.
playing
Yeah,
quarterback, like
yeah,
a lot like what Peyton Manning's coaching staffs got to reap the
yeah.
benefit of whenever he was out there.
That he
I
was
mean,
the guy threw 55 touchdowns with Adam Gase.
Adam
So
Gase is still fucking getting paid because
Peyton Manning,
he was paid Manning's OC. Like still to this day, he's going to get another job somewhere. Somebody in college or the NFL is going to hire him for some type of bullshit position for
Houston,
whatever
come on,
reason.
baby, bring it.
Yeah, somebody is going to hire Adam Gase, and it's all still like on his resume. He's going to go into these interviews and be like, "Hey, you remember that season with Peyton Manning whenever he won MVP?
Yeah,
That was
all them
me."
Yeah.
that was me. He's still getting paid off that shit. So I
But
mean,
we know, Adam. Don't, so man, like what some other things, we can touch on real quick, because we don't want to make this go super long and all that, but um, a few different rumors going around. I'm gonna need you to talk me into Carson Wentz. I know we did this. Did we do this last episode?
uh,
Did we do this a couple days ago?
we touched on it a little bit, yeah,
Okay.
because we
Well, we
we
won't go
talked
in
about the
depth with it,
quarterback
but there's been
rumors.
some more reports now that
Has
came
there been
out that
something new recently? The last thing I saw was
they
that the Bears were the
yeah,
favorites.
well, yeah, they said it's down to the Colts and the Bears, and they said something about Wentz might be able to control which team he goes to because
Oh,
of his ability to, restructure his contract
hmm.
for the team that's trading for him. And so they said basically like if he doesn't want to go there, he won't restructure his contract, which would put the other team in a huge bind.
Right.
Um, so, I mean, he can kind of force his way to whichever of those two teams he wants to go to. I've got a bad feeling I know which team he wants to go to because of our head coach. Um, uh, we'll see what happens, but regardless, I think the news is going to break pretty soon, possibly even tomorrow. That Wentz is going to be traded, and um, it's going to be interesting to see what they get back. They wanted a Matthew Stafford type package. I heard that they wanted 2 first round picks for him. Uh,
No
fuck
shot.
off.
Yeah,
That's
I've been a huge Wentz fan, and even I would be like, no,
Yeah,
no,
no,
thank you.
no. So we'll see. I mean, me personally, I hope the Colts go a different direction, but if they do, obviously, um, which I mean, I know if we do get wins and I come on here talking about, wins, like, yeah, like I'm supporting him and all that stuff, I'll get told like, well, you're switching sides. You're blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, dude, like he's going to be my quarterback for at least a couple of years. Like, what am I going to say? Like, I hope you fucking suck. Like, yeah, like, no, I'm not going to do that. So if he's a Colts quarterback, I'll root for him. I'll try to find the good in the situation, but
Well,
this is
look,
me on record saying I don't want that to happen.
what you told me just now would make me feel even better about the Colts getting him if that ends up being the case. Because if you're telling me he's going to restructure his deal to make it
Yes.
more team friendly if he
Um,
lands where he wants to land,
So from what I
and
understand with that, he can basically waive a few different things and make it a 2 year, I believe it's 2 year, 45 million deal. So they would be on hook
oh
for 25
yeah,
million this year, 20 million next year, and then they can get out of it.
that is 100% worth it if you guys are able to do it, man.
Yeah. And then, but it depends on what we
If
give
he
up.
if
Like,
he
I don't
gets
want to give
traded
up a first round
to
pick.
if you guys give up one first round pick, I think it would be worth it.
It would
Anything
be the
but
it'd be the 21 pick this year. And I mean, as much as I don't like him, I don't know if you're going to find a quarterback at 21 that's going to be as talented as he has been in the
right,
past. So I mean, I might be okay giving up our 21 if it's just that, like nothing
right.
else thrown in. Outside of that, maybe, a couple players and Rock Yasin and maybe Ben Bandigu, Taekwon Lewis, some of those kind of rotational pieces we have, and then maybe, a second or third round pick. I would kind of be more comfortable with because there's still some needs that we need to address, and I'd really like to keep our first round pick to do that. But I get it; you can't have your cake and eat it too, especially with quarterbacks.
Right.
So it wouldn't be
Yeah,
the
I mean, it, if he goes to the Bears, I'm not gonna like that very much for Carson Wentz.
no,
Like
no, yeah, no, I'm
it,
good.
the the hopeful bounce back of Carson Wentz goes out the window if he goes to the Bears, especially with Allen Robinson being a free agent.
Yeah, well, they
And
can franchise him, so I mean,
sure, yeah, and that if he has Allen Robinson to throw to, that would make me feel a little bit better. But still, I mean,
but then like I
you're putting
mean,
your trust in Matt Nagy, and
yeah,
no,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah,
But
pass.
if he you guys are best case scenario for Wentz, I think. I mean, you're talking if he restructures his deal to make it more team friendly, with the quarterback landscape the way it is right now, he is absolutely worth 20 million, 25 million for 2 years. Like they pencil it in, he's worth that. And then you've got him in. He's under the head coach where, as an OC, he had his what should have been MVP season before it got in, before it ended early due to injury. Um, He's got an immediate upgrade in offensive line, and we're not talking about just like a little bit of an upgrade. Like he's
Yeah,
got an
he's got a
upgrade.
massive upgrade.
Like the way Mahomes looked tonight, running for his life, that was Put Carson Wentz in your mind.
Yeah,
That was
I actually
all
said that to
season.
somebody tonight. I said, I was like, man, this looks like I'm watching an Eagles game.
Yeah, that was what Wentz did all night, except whenever he was scrambling, he wasn't looking to throw to Tyreek or Travis Kelce,
He was
or
looking to
he
throw
was
to
looking to
Travis
throw to
Fulgham.
Travis Fulgham and the ghost of Zach Ertz. Like, I mean, I mean, he gets an immediate upgrade in the offensive line. Um,
Jonathan
a
Taylor,
very
Najee
capable
Hines.
defense, a great running game, and weapons that are, I don't know what's going to happen with T.Y. Hilton and what you guys are going to do in free agency, but even
I
if
think
T.Y.
well,
Hilton,
I think there's a good chance we add another receiver, possibly in the draft. I don't think we're going to pay up for one unless it's going to be Ty coming back. I think that's going to be the most realistic avenue for free agency. I think we can get Ty back and then maybe add another, because this is another deep wide receiver draft like last year was.
hmm
So I think we
yeah,
could get another piece, maybe third round, and plus we get Paris Campbell back, and
right.
he's had some injury issues, but really
Michael Pittman
fault of,
looked good too.
no, yeah, like no fault of his own, because the guy just got his knee absolutely obliterated by a defender, like just running. Like it wasn't like he had a non-contact injury that he just went down because he's made of glass. I mean that
Right.
so I mean I still got really high hopes for Paris Campbell, and I think Michael Pittman's just going to be an absolute monster. So I really like, my comparison for him is like, I think he can reach prime Vincent Jackson, Tampa Bay levels. That's
Yeah,
who he
I like
reminds me
that.
of the most, is Vincent Jackson. So I think if we can add possibly another piece, and then also like Zach Pascal, like all that dude does is produce. So I think there's some good weapons there for him. Jack Doyle, obviously, he's getting a little older, but he's still good. Mo Alley, depending on what he can do, maybe we re-sign Trey Burton, or maybe even we bring in Zach Ertz, to get back into Frank's offense. Um, we'll see. There's a lot of different avenues we can go. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan. Obviously, if it happens, I'm going to be supporting the guy. So don't give me the bullshit of like me turncoating or whatever. Like I said, I'm not going to root for my favorite franchise's quarterback to fucking suck. So
Right.
you're gonna have to get over that. But yeah. Well, I mean, we'll just kind of go ahead.
Um,
Uh,
I got one
let's-
more thing
oh, okay, okay.
before we get off. So I'm just looking this up just because I think this is really funny. Um, so before I play this video, just because this is like one of my favorite memes, that like these guys are incredible. But something else I just saw that blew my mind. So the Bucks are the first team with 4 30-point games in a postseason. First team to do that. Like, okay, no shot. They're the first team to beat 3 Super Bowl MVP quarterbacks in a postseason. Tom Brady is the first player in NFL history with 50 passing touchdowns in a season, including playoffs, for a Super Bowl champion. Let those sink in, man. Like, what? None of those sound real. Like, there's no
Yeah,
shot any of those are real, but that's from ESPN stats and info.
yeah, that is
Um,
real. It just happened. Like you just watched it happen. So let's play this video. Mm-mm-mm. So I don't know if you guys can hear this. I mean, I don't think you can hear this or not,
I,
because I think
I
he's got his
hope this
headset
I hope
on.
this could come through on the podcast.
No, I don't think it will, because I think you got the audio on your headset. But what he's playing is the Gronkowski and Tom Brady "Bad Boys for Life." Like, we ain't going nowhere. It's Bad Boys for Life. He's playing that video with those two guys.
They had the first one that they had from the AFC with the Pats too.
Yeah, like this. Yeah, it's hilarious, man. I love those guys.
These two guys, man, it's just, oh
Their
man,
money on social media. That's
yeah,
another
they
thing
really are.
Brady. That's another thing that Brady is like the goat at, is Twitter.
Yeah,
Like,
it's incredible, man. Yeah, so that's just, I came across all that right before, and then shout out to Patrick Mahomes. To
yeah, yeah,
in the post game interview, he said they beat us good. It's the best I've been beaten in a long time. He didn't try to make excuses. He didn't reach for cop outs. He just said
yeah.
they beat
Well, I
us,
mean,
and
he doesn't
he
need to make
won.
excuses. He's got some other people that'll make those for him.
Yeah, but it's just, it's cool. The the NFL is in really good hands moving
Definitely.
forward too. There's been a lot of great faces of the league, with Brady and guys like that in the past. And then now with Mahomes moving into that position, in my opinion, he's an incredible football player, the best quarterback in the league, and just it seems like an all around good dude on top of that
Yeah,
too.
man.
So,
Yeah, I really like Mahomes.
you
I'm
know,
looking forward
show him
to
some love too.
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to another 50 touchdown performance next season. Because I got you in Dynasty. So I'm definitely going to be rooting for Patrick Mahomes for the foreseeable future. Um, but yeah, so
And
uh,
then the honey badger, we talked about that earlier. He got asked about that after the game. He said, "I've never really saw that side of Tom Brady, to be honest, but whatever, no comment. It's over with. I'm done with it." I've
yeah,
never seen that side of Tom Brady. Well, you just played Tom Brady in the Super Bowl and you tried to talk shit. So,
that side came out real quick.
yeah,
So yeah, man. So we'll just go ahead and end it there. Obviously, football season's over, sadly. Until next year, but we'll still have some plenty more football content. We're about to
oh,
get
it's
really, we're about
free
to get
agency and
really
draft season
heavy into
now.
baseball, though. You guys are, if you're big
Hmm.
baseball fans, you're probably gonna love some of the other stuff we're gonna be coming out with soon, as well as we got the NBA going on right now that we can definitely touch on, and it's almost draft season. Free agency is going to be hitting here in about a month for the NFL. So there's still tons of sports to cover. There's still tons of things that we would love to have your guys' opinions on. We should have this up here. Let's see, what is it's Sunday night, so it'll probably be tomorrow morning sometime. So we would definitely like subscribe, anything like that. We're going to be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. Make sure to hit the subscribe and the like button. We had some really good content and comments from some guys on the last
Yeah,
episode.
yeah,
So yeah, keep that up. We really love hearing from you guys, and we would love to have some guests on. So if you're interested in joining us for an episode, reach out to either Andrew or I, and we would love to get you on an episode with us coming up soon.
absolutely.
So yeah, any parting words from you? Anything you want to touch on?
No, man, it's baseball time, baby. Let's go
Awesome. Yeah.
Cardinals. That's
Yeah.
what I'm
Go,
ready
go
for. Let's
Cards,
do it.
baby. So we will see you guys later. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon.